Logan Cooley decided to not go back to college next season. He's going to go back to college next season. Let's go, boys.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, your number one daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. I'm your host, Robyn Leano, alongside Matthew Jacobson. We want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every day. We're freely available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube and the SiriusXM radio app. Matt, Logan Cooley is an Arizona Coyote officially. How does that
Arizona State Coyote. He is an Arizona State Coyote. Oh man, he pulled a, what was it? It was a Michigan goal earlier on in the season against ASU last season, and I wonder how much more mullet magic we're going to get, because now when Logan Cooley scores at Mullet Arena, we're allowed to cheer. All right. You're not going to have that conflicted. Well, you weren't conflicted because you're a unfortunate soul that roots for the Tucson team. But I'm not going to be conflicted anymore. Being like, oh man, I want ASU to win though, because now I can do this when he scores. Forks up, baby.
Oh, God.
I'm so excited.
But it's can you imagine now what opening night is going to look like now? Can you imagine the prices now for opening night?
Can I, for context, I forgot who shared this on X, because that's apparently what it is now. We haven't got a chance to make the one joke, but I don't want to get in trouble, so I won't make that joke. So here's the lineup. When the rebuild started 2 years ago for the 2020-2021 season. Yeah, because last year was 23, so 22. The 2021-22 season. At the Blue Jackets, your lineup: Anton Roussel, Jay Beagle, Dmitry Yaskin, Lawson Krause, Nick Schmaltz, Clayton Geller, Andrew Ladd, Christian Fisher at center, Phil Kessel, Ryan Dzingel, Johan Larsson, and Louis Eriksson, with Chikrin Timmins, Gostisbehere, Strawman, Labushkin, and Soderstrom, and Carter Hutton, the tank commander himself, at goal. How bleeping ridiculous is it that Bill Armstrong managed in just 2 years to go from this dumpster fire of a roster? Because that's an embarrassing roster, all right? And we cheered for that. We cheered for this roster and turned it into some sort of combination of Keller, Schmaltz, Hayton, Logan Cooley, Matthias Michelli, Dylan Gunther, Lawson Krause, Jack McBain, Jason Zucker, Alex Kerfoot. I'm forgetting a center. We got Travis Boyd, Nick Bukestad. All right, that's potentially your 12 forwards. That is night and day. That is flip a switch.
Much better. Like it's like infinitely better. Like,
how do you do that?
I don't think you can even make a proper comparison because of how much better it is. Like, it's just like not fair to the team that was a couple years ago. But
that was an AHL team. That's literally an AHL team versus what they're at now. Words cannot describe, Robyn, how this went from a dumpster fire roster, a roster that legitimately they should have been playing at the Mullet 1 year earlier. I know it didn't exist, but they should have played in the skeleton of what would become the Mullet, because this roster deserves to be called a college roster, not the roster they iced last year, and certainly not the roster they're going to ice this season. I am stunned. I thank you. Who was it? Thank you, Nick Maciello, for posting that and giving me the clarity and context, because I am so much happier now. I was already excited. I am actually genuinely happy now that it feels like we've come full circle.
And I'm going to go back to that question again, though. Opening night. How like the ticket prices? Can you imagine how much it's skyrocketing right now?
Oh my god! I can imagine the cheapest ticket being somewhere around $200 though. I can imagine, just because it's Logan Cooley.
Of one man. That's because of
Logan
one
Cooley,
man
who should have been the number 1 overall pick, and the fact that about a year or so later, we're seeing more and more people within hockey circles saying, yeah, he was the best prospect of that draft. Stunned, speechless. I think Craig Morgan was talking about it earlier. Oh, what was the last prospect that was this hyped? All right, we had Danny Briere, who turned into something really good, but was just kind of pretty good with the Coyotes. They moved off from him too early. We've had Kyle Turris, Peter Mueller, guys like that. Blake Wheeler, to an extent, that were hyped within our system. One never played, one got injured and didn't pan out, and one became a solid NHL player for other teams. I cannot think of a prospect we've had that has been as hyped and celebrated as Logan Cooley has in just a 1-year span in college. And he signed, and he wants to be here. And where there was a quote that he said, it was during the PR availability, quote, anytime you put on that Coyotes jersey on, even if it's just a practice jersey, it means a lot. It definitely means a lot to me, close quote. This kid has been doing nothing but talking about how much he likes the team, likes the system, likes Clayton Keller, looked up to Clayton Keller, wants to play for this team, wants to wear that Kachina, constantly reiterating it. I do not think it can be understated how valuable this is, that this kid specifically wants to be a Coyote and signed that contract.
And we will get to some of our thoughts about him actually signing that contract in just a moment. But first, I want to let everyone know today's episode is brought to you by AG1, the daily foundational nutrition supplement that supports whole body health that I drink literally every day. I gave AG1 a try because I needed something that I can rely on. There's a single thing. If I could was able to find a single thing that I could rely on to support my whole health, my immune system, without having to take pills and vitamins and a bunch of other things, because I forget to take pills all the time. AG1 makes it easy, because all I need to do is add a scoop of the AG1 into a cup of water every day, and it's got all the nutrition I need for the day, whether it's for your immune system, for your gut health, for your energy, for everything. If a comprehensive solution is what you need from your supplemental routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Just go to drinkag1.com/NHL Network. That's drinkag1.com/NHL Network. So be sure to check it out. All right. Let's go to more of our thoughts, though, about Logan Cooley signing. And Matt, you said it perfectly before the break that Logan Cooley wants to be here. But it's interesting, though. I want to touch on this, that, not too long ago, we were talking about him saying, we don't blame him for wanting to go back to college for another season based off of how everything went down at the election and a bunch of other things. But he changed his mind. And here's, I want to know what it was. From my understanding, I can go ahead and point into one thing, and it's our man, the captain, Clayton Keller. He's not technically not officially captain yet. But
Craig Morgan shot that one down. He's
not. But we already
know.
Yet. But we already know. He may not be officially, but within the system, it's very likely that that's the case, because Clayton Keller convinced him to sign.
And it's funny because he also kind of reportedly convinced him to go back to college originally, because he was leaning on going pro.
That just tells you how much of an influence Clayton Keller has. That man is amazing.
You know what? With all of the recent, this is a small side note for other Arizona sports figures and athletes. Isn't it nice that we don't have to yell, "Pay this man"? Isn't it nice that we don't have to be like, "Oh, the Coyotes need to pay this man" because they've already done it? Side note, it's nice to have a franchise player like that, and you don't have to worry about paying him because you already did it. But this kid, it's funny. It is really funny because I remember when he announced he was going back to college. It was not very long after the election, and it's like, it did play a factor, and there were so many brain dead intellectuals on the interwebs that were just like, "Oh, you see, this team can't even sign their own free agents. He doesn't want to be there. He's going to request a trade," which is funny because one of the first things Craig Morgan asked him at rookie camp was, "Are you going to request a trade?" He's like, "No, that's not going to happen." He even said, he reiterated he was leaning on going pro, but decided to go back to Minnesota, but left the door open. All right. This was about a month ago, right around the month ago mark at this point. We've all been on the know on this. All of us within the Coyotes community that read Craig Morgan's work, that pay attention to the actual reporting, we knew this was a possibility, but we just kind of, we did this. We crossed our fingers a little bit, but didn't put expectations on it. Then that report comes out that he's supposed to, yesterday, that there's momentum towards him signing, and then it's official today after the Coyotes Twitter had some fun with it. It's so amazing how quiet a lot of those people have become. It's funny how quiet they've been since the signing, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna shoot my shot now. Connor Bedard finally has some good competition for Rookie of the Year this year, because Logan Cooley is going to have a massive opportunity with a better supporting cast, with a better team around him. Rookie year. Connor Bedard is a better player. I am not saying he's not. What I'm saying is I think Logan Cooley is going to be a very good candidate.
You take a look at the current state of the Chicago Blackhawks and the current state of the Arizona Coyotes. It is night and day difference. The Blackhawks are in, I don't even know what state they are. The Coyotes, they're building, they are continuing to build those blocks. They are signing free agents that just make sense, and they're getting better every day. And now they added Logan Cooley to that.
I'm so hyped. I am so excited, and I cannot wait to see Cooley play with Gunther. I don't want Cooley playing with Keller yet. I want him to earn his way up. I want him to not have to be forced with the tougher matchups. I want them to ease him into it a little bit.
Cooley and Gunther.
I would love that. Maybe you put him down at the third line and you put Zucker on the other side. You can put him with Gunther.
You're right. You need a vet. You need a vet on somewhere on that line.
Mm-hmm. And then Gunther, so Gunther can still have a good setup man and people with a good shot around him as well. Because if you put Zucker on that line, that top nine is as good as this top nine has been for a long time.
Plus,
all right, 2018-19.
Let's think about it this way. Let's say Cooley's what, second line center, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a second line center as, from what we've been able to see, a master of faceoffs.
It's good to have some reliable centers, because Bukestad, respectable, very respectable. He's typically about a third line center on most teams, bottom six guy. Works well here. He might be your second line center. Keep him with Lawson Krause and Matias Michelli, and just let the fireworks go, because if you can regain what they had, that's going to be a fun line. But Barrett Hayton, also very respectable from the faceoff circle. Jack McBain, decent from the faceoff circle. If you just add more down the middle, more depth, more quality. Remember first line Travis Boyd 2 years ago? Remember first line Travis Boyd might not have a roster space. And that is not saying Travis Boyd sucks. I like Travis Boyd. Right around a middle to bottom six forward, good NHL forward. He might not have a roster spot. With how much deeper this team has gotten, and depending on how some players play coming into camp, I think I forgot Carcone when I did my initial lineup projections. He might not have a roster spot. which also frees us from Liam O'Brien games. It frees us from having to put Liam O'Brien up there.
I mean, let's put it this way: to have the forward group like this puts me a little more at ease, so we don't have to do the freaking 11-7 anymore. Please,
Oh my God, if they do,
you have the forward group. Do not do the 11-7.
I want it on record. Turnier, I love you. You are a phenomenal coach. I have nothing negative to say except for your insistence on the 11-7. If I see it once this season, if I see it once, I am going to complain and cry every second until the end of the season, and I never see 11-7 again. Never again.
I mean, it just doesn't make sense at this point.
Like last year, they had the abundance of defenders. They had inexperienced forwards. You're looking for different matchups. I get it. All right. I hate it, but I get it. This year is no excuse. They have enough forwards.
There is absolutely no reason to have to put that in your arsenal, because you have the forwards. You have the raw power in your forwards now.
Yeah. I'm almost speechless of how good this team can be, because I stand by my projections. All right. Luckily, no one has thought they know better as of this offseason. I've seen some. I've been clowned before for my projections, but I projected. I stand by it. They're going to look like a playoff team at times. They're not going to make the playoffs. However, you add Logan Cooley. If he is as good as advertised, you might hold on to a wild card spot for a couple weeks. You might look a little better for a little longer. Still not going to be a playoff year, but we're getting closer, because you still have to factor in if Michelli is going to have a sophomore slump. You have to factor in how Gunther is going to look consistently. You have to factor in the transition from NCAA to NHL for Logan Cooley. There's going to be some growing pains, but there's going to be stretches where this team looks phenomenal. It's going to be such a fun team.
And you can imagine that's where they're going to be at this year. Next year, you add potentially, Connor Geeky if this next season in juniors goes really well for him. The same thing for Maverick Lamoureux and a lot of other prospects that were drafted within the last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's just constantly getting better. That is the point of the rebuild. A lot of people were talking about how slow of a rebuild this might be. It's like, it's going to be like 5-6 years. Like, it's ramping pretty fast, it feels like.
Yeah, no, it's I was expecting playoff contention in around 3 to 5 years, like pushing towards that, but probably on the further end. Our meme of the 2025 Cup champions might not be that far off. If they keep progressing, because Steve Peters made an excellent point. The defense still has a lot to be desired, has a lot to prove, and a lot to develop. That's a legitimate concern. And consistency with goaltending, that's another valid concern. But when it comes to your offensive production, it comes to your defensive responsibility from your forwards, when it comes to the overall two-way 200-foot game from your forwards, you have nothing to worry about. On paper, you ain't got nothing to worry about with this roster.
All right, I got a little tinfoil hat moment for you, Matt.
Oh God, let's do it.
Logan Cooley signing here, making this upcoming Coyote season so much better than some people might have thought. Mm-hmm. The way you might have said, they're kind of like floating around a playoff spot, but they won't make it. But they're progressing in that direction. You got a free agent coming up, in the name of Austin Matthews.
A fellow mustache enjoyer, I might add.
And we all know, we've always talked about Austin Matthews come home, the Scottsdale kid, making his way back to Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine? Because, he needs to be persuaded, the Coyotes being a team that's actually going to make it pretty far relatively soon. And in order for him to be even interested in signing with the Coyotes in the upcoming free agency period, I feel like Logan Cooley, it tips the scales of like the Coyotes being good enough in the next season to be I'm not necessarily 100% persuasive, but it brings in the actual thoughts. Like, hey, maybe you sign with Arizona.
I'm just going to say this primarily because the reaction of Toronto fans will always entertain me. Because we saw that one report that he's closing in on like a 3-year contract, and it's like, oh yeah, see, he's not going to leave. That means you thought it was a possibility. That means you were sitting there thinking about the Coyotes could persuade him. He still hasn't signed. July 1st, he was eligible. He still has yet to sign. I don't care about your closing in on it. If he's yet to sign, and the Coyotes are getting more and more exciting, and he decides to make the wait and see approach. Let's just say, for example, he's like, you know what? Tomorrow, we're going to pause these negotiations and we'll reconvene at a later date. And the Coyotes get off to a hot start, and you see some good things happening. He already lives here in the summer. One thing people don't understand, it is hot as balls here in the summer. It is miserable. I love the heat, all right? I don't typically mind getting in my car when it's hot because I like feeling warm. That being said, that does not mean that is a pleasant experience for most people. That does not mean most people want to deal with 115 at least every single day. Austin Matthews was here in the offseason. Every second, he does not need to be in Toronto. He is living in Arizona. This is an Arizona boy, all right? And while I would prefer he keeps his drunken conduct, not degenerate, if he wants to come home and give me a reason to beef with some Toronto fans, because I very much like the fact that Coyotes fans got in their head. Because anytime you see, oh yeah, it's like, see, he's going to re-sign here, it's because they're scared. And it's a realistic possibility. And that is what I cling to. I want it on record, just in case I haven't clarified before. I think I have, but on record, I do not care one way or the other if Austin ever comes home. But boy, wouldn't it be funny if he did.
Oh, it would be amazing. Yeah, it'd be amazing. I mean, like, I'm the dreamer. It's like, hey, let's dream it happening. If it doesn't happen, I'm also just like, oh, well, didn't happen. We tried. Mm-hmm. But I think that's the most important part. I think the Coyote, you don't blame the Coyotes for maybe trying to see if they could persuade him.
I wouldn't blame him at all. And the only way you can persuade him right now is what they're doing. What they are currently doing is filling out the roster. They're making sure they still have cap space in the future. They're making sure they are not, as Bill Armstrong said, sign guys that will help us right now. They will not hurt us in 2 to 3 years. That's what they've done. And they're going to have the cap space. They're going to have roster space. If Austin decides we're going to put the contract talks on pause and the Coyotes start playing well and they're trending in the right direction, you go from a dumpster fire that literally celebrated a first-round victory like a Stanley Cup victory and justified it to themselves. All right?
You know what I really think?
Up-and-coming team.
What I really think is going to be a telltale sign, and I think this might be a moment in which Austin Matthews, if he hasn't signed his extension with the Maple Leafs yet at this point, if the Coyotes run through that championship gauntlet that they have on their schedule, where they face every single one of the last 7 Stanley Cup winners.
The last 6, but it's technically 4 because one of them won it two times.
Okay. So yes,
five.
But but still, the championship gauntlet. If they go out there with winning the majority of those games, you cannot say that Austin Matthews thinks even more about that. You can't, like, that at that point. He's like, maybe this team is for real. Maybe it is worth the conversation.
I will do you one better. This is the hypothetical, so if you want to clip it, you add a context, sure, but you're going to look dumb. This is the hypothetical. Austin puts the contract talks on hold. He's vaguely intrigued with what's going on in Arizona, and Shane Doan is pulling double duty as an inside agent, getting in his brain. I'm going to stick to that conspiracy theory to help myself cope with losing Donor. And he's just kind of peeking over the fence. Start the season off well. Obviously, they're not a playoff team, but they're showing that potential. They're showing the upward momentum. They're having some nice streaks. Maybe they hold on to that wild card spot. They had it, I think, for 2 days or 3 days last year. Hold on to it for a week. You know what? They're right around where they need to be to start making the playoffs next year, because they're showing how they went from bottom 3 to not even bottom 5 last year to right around playoffs. That would mean the year after, next season, would be a playoff year. Austin Matthews looks at that. He touches his mustache a little bit, and he's like, I think I'll go home, because they got the cap space, and they will definitely pay it, because the amount of 34 jerseys that would fly off the shelf. People already have 34. I have an ASU Austin Matthews jersey because I thought it was funny, but people have Austin Matthews Kachinas unofficial. You're telling me you start printing those things, they're not going to sell out like that? You're going to make your money back.
They will. No, the moment that jersey hits the shelves, the very moment they are sold out.
Yes.
The very moment they hit the shelves, instantly sold out. No question about it. And that kind of brings into that really helps the Coyotes financially, gets them to their new arena, and everything plays out perfectly.
With playoffs in the last year at the Mullet.
Oh, yes.
We will get, because if they are around the playoffs this year, again, I do not predict they will make it, but I do think that they will, again, look like a playoff team at times. They'll probably have a playoff spot for about a week. Like they did it last year. They could probably manage it a small stretch this season. Do not think that is unreasonable. It might be early in the season, but I don't think that's unreasonable to say. The next season would have to be playoffs. If you add an Austin Matthews type talent, you could potentially trade Barrett Hayton for something else you need, because it's Austin, Logan Cooley. Are you really going to banish Barrett to the third line? Like, that could potentially cause some drama within the organization. Potentially. It depends on Barrett's mindset, but I would like to imagine, with how hard he worked last year and how hard he's been working for the last couple of years, he doesn't want to be a third-line center. His play, to me, shows me that. And I think he's coming up on an expiring contract after this season. I'll have to double-check his contract, because I know like a 2-year contract. I feel if they do get Austin, this literally is a contingent. If they get Austin Matthews, you trade Barrett Hayton for something else, because you're not going to either overpay for a third liner or cause drama within your organization by saying, hey, I know you're really good, but we're just going to force you out of the top 6 anyway. And it isn't even like a hard feelings thing. It's, you have Logan Cooley and Austin Matthews. I'm pretty sure everyone's going to understand. Just saying.
It would be so good. So amazing.
Bukestad is your third line center, or Bukestad is your third, Jack McBain is your third, whoever. That is a good depth down the middle. We got, excuse me, I am excited. We got good depth now.
I am going to close on this thought, and just saying, just overall, Austin Matthews or not, right now, it is so refreshing to have players, Logan Cooley as one of them, who want to be here in Arizona, like who actually love Arizona. Like there are even I can't remember which prospect was it. Was it Connor Geeky that actually likes the heat here?
Yeah, he was saying how much better the weather is here than Winnipeg when he got drafted.
I'm like, my dude, it is 115 degrees outside, and you'll love this. It's like, hell yeah. I'm like,
but he got rid of the flow. We might have to have a conversation that he got rid of the lettuce, and I'm not sure we can stand that around here, because the entire point of the 2022 draft was long hair, apparently, because all like 4 or 5 of their top picks all just had flowing hair.
But regardless, all these players want to be here, and it just gives us a breath of fresh air, because it really, really, brings down the idea that everyone was trying to say over the last year. Oh, no one wants to be in Arizona. No, that's not true.
The mullet is garbage. players aren't going to want to be here.
That's my final thought. Matt, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, how the hell do we go from Cooley to Austin Matthews? But I love the troll job. I love Cooley signing the contract. I'm just going to take it a step further. Just for the absolute lulz of it, the arena's getting done. Because they already, like, whatever they told this kid behind the scenes, they also had to tell Keller, and that could, because his agents, from what I can tell, are very good. Meaning, if the answer was not sufficient, there would have been at least a push for a trade request on behalf of Keller's representation. All right? Whatever they told Keller, whatever they told Cooley, got him to sign. He is represented by the same agent, or same agency as Clayton Keller, got him to sign, got him to want to be here. He already wanted to be here, but got him to go from the maroon and gold to the proper maroon and gold, but a successful college organization that gave him a chance to win a national championship last year, to a team that will not be a playoff team this year. What was he told? And I get it. He's competitive. He talked about it. It was in his statement. He wants to play at the highest possible level. But what else was he told? I have a feeling the update we got is just breadcrumbs compared to the details that they're getting behind the scenes. And if you're a Coyotes fan, you should be excited. If you want this team to relocate, you might want to cry a little harder, because I don't think you're going to get what you want here, because I genuinely feel like this signing is just a byproduct of the good things that are coming and the good things that are in the pipeline that we don't see yet.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to be it for today's episode. We're out of time. This was Locked On Coyotes. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, and subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube and the Sirius XM radio app. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, on Threads @LockedOnCoyotes, and on Twitter, it's now /X @LO_Coyotes. I'm personally @Robyn_Leonio. Matthew Jacobson is the AZ Sports Guy. Interact with us, ask the question you might have. We might answer right back, or on a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.